Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for today's video, which is going to be talking about the Tier 10 French Premium Battleship, the Bourgogne. And the topic of today's video is to discuss why is Bourgogne so fun to play here in World of Warships, even though she's been in the game for quite some time now. Let's see if I can actually see when she was first brought in. Looks like the 1st of December of 2018. And I've had this ship for quite some time. She's available in the armory for steel. And I will pull up maybe the armory, maybe not. But she's available for steel. And I have just immensely enjoyed playing this Tier 10 French battleship. And I realized a flaw today on my YouTube channel, where I've done several videos on the best steel ship, 2 specific and then the second best steel ship. And I realized that inadvertently I have the best steel ship being Stalingrad, and I have another video called the best steel ship being their Bourgogne. And I've been sitting here for the past few minutes thinking between the two of them of which one would I actually give the title to, because that was totally unintentional on my part. And I don't think I had the answer for that right now. Because these ships just play so differently in various ways. You know, even looking between the two ships, which I don't really want to get into this video. You know, there's just, you know, in general, I perform better in Stalingrad in terms of win weight, but then, you know, in terms of like damage and that, I just tend to pump out much more with the Bourgogne compared to the Stalingrad, this, that, and the other. But alas, I must regress. This is about why is the Bourgogne so fun. And probably the best way to define why Bourgogne is so fun, it probably revolves around her mobility, as I begin to think about it. Compared, of course, with her consumables and these 12 380mm guns. As we're waiting for this Buffalo, maybe he goes broadside and we can clap him, because Buffalo has a rather vulnerable citadel, as it looks like he's going to make the move now. But the mobility of Bourgogne is just amazingly fun. Now, this is a battleship that has among the lowest hit points. I don't think it's the lowest, but it's like maybe the top 3 or 4 among Tier 10 battleships having the smallest health pools. And so that means that you really don't want to be playing too... Now, I'm going to correct myself on this. You don't want to be playing too aggressive early on in the game in terms of your map positioning. So you don't want to be aggressive and pushing into the middle of the map, as an example. Like most French ships in the game, they tend to play best as flanking ships. You know, most of the cruisers play in that way, the heavy cruisers or the light cruisers. And I think that also goes for the battleships. Now, Republic, I might argue a little bit on that statement because you can play it in various ways, right? But that mobility factor in the Bourgogne means that you get to make some pretty amazing plays. I mean, you have 12 guns if you're using the high explosive. You can punish destroyers quite easily. And then you have cruisers or battleships that go broadside. You have a punishing high explosive salvo, but you have a very punishing armor piercing salvo, right? So we got a Citadel on the Buffalo, and now we've gone for Yamato, who's a bit angled in, so we'll have to see how we do here. But the ability of the mobility of this ship just means you get to have some really fun play style with this battleship, where you do have to be mindful of your hit points, but your mobility just shines quite brightly. And I really liked how it was worded in the WoW's wiki towards the end when a player put this in. It said, whether it's repositioning to a falling flank, creating a crossfire on a high-value enemy target, or quickly disengaging from an unfavorable situation, Bourgogne's mobility is one of her most powerful assets. Whereas other battleships act as floating bunkers, Bourgogne's playstyle is more like that of a cruiser. Knowing when and how to create crossfires is necessary to a skill to making the Bourgogne perform at her best. So it's these crossfires that you can create with this ship, like pushing a flank, which you see us doing here. Have been stepping out on the Trump, and yeah, that's over 8,000 of 8 of the 12 high explosive shells connecting. Although we lost our lightning here, our speed just means we're going to be able to run down the Trump here here on the Bourgogne. So in terms of the Bourgogne speed, since we're talking about mobility, if you take the Sierra Mike combat signal, your max speed will be 33.60 knots. But if you also activate the engine boost, let me do the math on that, which here it's not a 20%, it is a 15% engine boost, means you'll be over 38.6 knots here on the Bourgogne. So you can actually run down multiple tier 9, tier 10 destroyers here in the game that just are not going to stand a chance against you. And you can quickly catch battleships or cruisers off guard who are not ready for you to aggressively push in, which again why I think Bourgogne just shines so much here in the game and still does in 2024. We're almost going to get the kill here on the Yamato, but it's going to be ultimately the fire from our friendly Harbin that takes him out as we spank the Yamato into an inch of his life. So in talking about, let's talk about these guns a little bit, because they have a sigma of 1.8. They have a very wide horizontal dispersion, and then the vertical dispersion as tighter, so to speak. So you often notice with this ship, I love smacking Azumas and Yoshinos, 22, 23, 24 kilometers out. Because of having such a wide horizontal spread, you kind of see all your shells like kind of lining along a citadel of an enemy ship as an example, with the wider horizontal spread, but yet relatively somewhat tight vertical spread to an extent. She's not the most accurate battleship, of course, in the game, but she can definitely really be a powerhouse when played and positioned well. As you see, we've already wrapped up this flank here on Charlie, as we're going to then swing down towards the Alpha Key. But when you have these 12 380mm guns, your high explosive, as an example, you have a fire chance of 36% without taking anything there. And then these shells, and I'm trying to find it here on my screen, can pin 63mm of armor. And then your armor-piercing shells do a max damage of 11,900, and they just smack. I found Alsace to be quite frustrating to play, but for some reason I really like playing the Bourgogne much more. And then when we're talking about the guns, we also have to give credit where credit's due, and talking about one of her features being that main battery reload booster, which has an action time of 20 seconds. We get 4 of them, and a cooldown time of 120 seconds. So this effectively reduces our reload time by 50%. So when we're talking about our speed, and we haven't even talked about our concealment, which is 13.15, or as you see on the screen, the mini-map, it's 13.2. We talk about her speed, you talk about her concealment being relatively good at 13.2. Paired with the guns, speed, concealment, guns, you can really catch ships off guard with your positioning with Bourgogne. I would say Bourgogne is one of those ships in the game that rewards your positioning really well. Now, some ships I would say, yes, of course there's other ships that's very much true for, but I would say there's none that's quite as apparent as that so strongly, like the Bourgogne, and there's other ships in the game I could say to that degree as well. You are just rewarded for your positioning, very much so with the Bourgogne when we're talking about the speed, the engine boost, her main battery reload booster, the ability, if you set yourself up well for crossfires and flanking maneuvers, right? So we kind of saw our alpha cap early on in this game collapsing, so I knew it was important to try to push through C as much as possible, because then now, even though our spawn, we're in the enemy spawn, as we go through here, basically the map control is flipping from rather than let's say a north to south to an east to west as an example. Yes, you saw we were low earlier, but these this Petropavlovsk and Colombo have been really dishing it out, and they're going to perform really well all said and done in the game, and making it closer than what it originally was when we had several ships alive, as now the Gdansk takes out the Petropavlovsk. But this ship is just fun to play. It was, as it was stated in the WoW's wiki, kind of playing it somewhat like a cruiser. Now, because you have, you know, I'm really hitting on the fun things of this ship. But, you know, to talk about those cons, you know, your secondary battery, of course, isn't nothing to write home about. But having a small hit point pool for tier 10, and then also like other French ships, you're covered in 32 millimeter. So that means you can be easily overmatched by the larger, what was it? I need to double check that again. Larger main caliber guns, you know, we're talking basically 460 millimeter and up, you know, so I mean, you can talk about the Musashi, you can talk about the Yamato, you can talk about the Shikishima, the Satsuma, the Incomparable, the Hanover, you know, more and more ships that can overmatch the 32 millimeter plating. But then also that this ship is quite vulnerable to a lot of HE focus fire, high explosive fire here in the game as well. So that means you do have to be mindful in how you're picking your engagements. You know, here I can see it's on the enemy team to be able to push up from A and take B. The pressure's on them. We had the points lead. We don't have to play super aggressive here, but what we're doing is we're creating crossfires. So the Colombo slowed down a little bit more than I anticipated here, but we're flanking out here and creating crossfires, which again, this is what Bourgogne does really well, and that's why I find so enjoyable about this ship, because you have even a decent reload time. When you have the main battery mod 3 in the 6th slot, so we get a negative 12% on our main battery reload time, meaning we're under 25 seconds, 24.64 to be exact, and then of course taking things into account like adrenaline rush as you pick up the Confederate means that our reload begins to drop even more so down to like, you know, 23, 22 seconds, which means you get to catch ships off guard who think maybe they have enough time to you know, maybe they want to turn out from pushing in to pushing out, or they're pushing into you, but then they want to kite, and you can catch them on the broadside, disengaging here, as we have this enemy Jaeger who's quite close, and wishing we had our main battery reload booster, but we know it's coming, so we're just going to go ahead and go nose in and push him for the time being, because the Jaeger decided to go. I don't know. He should have played to his concealment here, so this is a little bit surprising for him to push in like he has. And now that we have our main battery reload booster up, you know, he's probably thinking, I'm safe, I can get my guns off here, not knowing that, of course, unless he's just new, you know, we have a main battery reload booster, which allows us to do things like that, and just completely catch him off guard with our DPM. So the thing with the main battery reload booster is, another reason why I like this ship, is that you're much more able to punish players who decide to go broadside and they don't respect your 380 millimeter guns. And so for me, that's rewarding, right? When you want to punish an enemy player's mistake in his positioning with his ship, and then, let me press this magic button here, being my main battery reload booster, and teach you not to do that. If they take that message to heart or not, you know, that's a completely different story here, as we miss out on that kill on the enemy Schlieffen. So as we were talking about, you know, some of those not as much strengths in terms of the hit points and the armor scheme of the Bourgogne, or the armor scheme. I thought I said enemy scheme there for a second, but her armor scheme is just not super great. So you do want to be mindful. I mean, she's not a brawling battleship by any means. She's a medium range to long range battleships. And typically I say medium range is like 12 to 15 kilometers here in the game. And then you can easily, with the range of having almost a 25 kilometer range here on the ship, without taking any upgrades or modules that or build into that upgrades, that is, you can effectively reach out really far here in the game of World of Warships with the Bourgogne. So there's just many things that I find very enjoyable and very fun, as I'm like wondering, hey, is that enemy CVZ down in that very bottom corner of J1, as you'll see some do that. So I'm fishing here because we're running out of time here and I want to get a little more damage in. But I know there are others of you who really enjoy the Bourgogne and watch my videos. So, you know, tell me why for you feel like Bourgogne is so enjoyable and so fun to play here in World of Warships. I'd be very interested, and I'm going to have to think about what I actually think the best stealth ship is, since I have conflicting statements on my YouTube. You know, but between Stalingrad and the Bourgogne, I think the Bourgogne is funner to play than the Stalingrad. And Stalingrad's perhaps a bit more sweaty, competitive play ship. And you know, there is a difference in terms of my win rate between the two ships. Well, I think Bourgogne I have like a 57% run rate in 35 battles, and then Stalingrad I think I have 52 battles with a 69% run rate. But I would tell you overall, between the two, I have more fun playing Bourgogne than I do the Stalingrad, just here in general in World of Warships. As the Kaga is going to come in on us, as we did get the high caliber and tipping over 212,000 damage as we max out on our points of 1,000 here. So that is the Bourgogne, and it's just such an enjoyable ship here in the game. And yeah, mobility, engine boost, her concealment, the main battery load booster of having these 12-380mm guns just makes this ship really rewarding and able to punish the enemy team, especially if you're able to set up crossfires and flanking as we did here on this game. So all said and done, we can see our XP and free XP with the 3 kills. Not as many citadels as I feel like I normally like to try to get with Bourgogne, but I digress, it is what it is. With over 2,700 in base XP with our Conqueror and Hornet doing quite well here on the team. Then you can see that Colombo and Petropavlovsk were doing a lot for their team there at the end, so just shout out to them for doing what they could. Here you can see we took 60,000 damage. Our main battery, most of that is wrapped up in the armor piercing, and then 114,000 and 85,000 high explosive. So don't sleep on either the high explosive or the armor piercing. They're both really good. Just situational and which one would you like to use. And it's almost with over 2.1 million potential damage here on the Bourgogne as well. So really fun to take out and play here with over 830,000 credits all said and done with premium accounts. So as I said, if you have the Bourgogne and you really enjoy playing the Bourgogne, why do you find the Bourgogne so fun? Let me know in the comments some of your thoughts with this ship, as she's still like just a really fun steel battleship I'm playing here in the game of World of Warships. And then to those of you who may be wondering what to use your steel on, you know, Stalingrad's really good, Bourgogne's really good. You know, those are the kind of like the two ships that immediately jump to my mind. But I have 4 steel ships. There's still more to earn and pick up, of course, as they keep adding newer steel ships into the armory. But that would be a discussion for a different time. But in terms of the fun value, like Bourgogne has been my favorite steel ship to buy so far here in the game in World of Warships. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you have subscribed, thanks so much. I would appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. And until next time, take care.